All right, so let's take a look at the hips from down the line and face on. We've got a fun comparison here. We've got Matt Wolff on the left and Rory on the right. And let's just kind of run through some of the bigger notes you want to take. Early, we're definitely going to see a little push off that front line. And his hips kind of get to their farthest back point here. We're going to look for that trail hip to kind of move up and back. All right, we're going to see that leg come out against, and we're going to see some spacing here before everything starts shifting the other way. And with Matt Wolff, he's going to have a little bit of a different action, but not quite so different, right? A little bit more knee movement, but same principles, right? A little bit of space. That hip's moved up and back. Leg's going to butt up against that back line. So as quirky as he appears to be, right, is pretty stock movement there. Okay, and things are going to start to move forward. As we transition, let's take Matt Wolff. We're going to see that gap get closed to that front line. And by the time the lead arm is parallel there, we'll see if Rory does the same. Yeah, Rory just goes and busts right through it, right? Put Rory at lead arm parallel. You'll see a pretty big difference here. Both of these things, very acceptable, right? If we look specifically at the hip up here, right? Matt's hip here and Rory's hip there. Both great drivers of the golf ball, though. The leg is in a similar spot. As we get down near impact, you're going to see Matt's hip start to push a little bit towards the target. As he clears a little bit of extra space out there. And Rory's going to do mostly the same, push a little bit more. Rory is hitting a 3-wood here for what it's worth, but okay, so this is kind of an important checkpoint we can pay attention to, and that is this front line. Right, so here's a guy with little hip shift or hip slide. And where does that front line relate at impact? We can see it's about through his knee. You know, Rory's with a 3-wood. It's going to be in a little bit different angle, a little farther up into the leg. Anything between these two is kind of what we're looking for, right? Okay, great. Now let's look down the line and see how our players compare. I mean, the basic thing we're going to be paying attention to with the hips down the line is whether or not they stay far enough back. Right? Most golfers suffer from early extension or goat humping or standing up. But most of that has to do with the fact that they need to do these things to hit the ball because their shaft or club or face are in such bad position. So if we watch Rory on the way back, you can see he basically stays right up against that back line. He's got one knee a little bit further out than the other from the front line. And honestly, kind of a similar action, right? I mean, more knee action with Matt, but same thing. And then in transition, this is where most amateurs lose it. We really want to see the hips stay back at this point, and if you are shallowing the club, you have a much better chance to do that. I should say if you're shallowing early. So Rory is going to be one of the exceptions on tour. This is about as far as you'll see a tour player come forward. A lot of this has to do with Rory's kind of straight back setup versus Matt Wolff's got this more rounded hips are more underneath him to start. You can kind of see that there pretty easily. But nonetheless, he's really close. And then at impact, you can definitely see a very different position with the hips as we would expect, given the setup differences. Matt's legs are inside those lines. Rory's a little outside. Again, this kind of an acceptable range. Hope that covers the hips for you and gives you a good idea what to look for.